we're doing what we can and the best we can, but we need more people to step up. And that I think starts with prevention at home. Prevention where parents are having conversations with their kids about this new white van, the phone. This is the new white van.
I'm your host, Katie Levine, and this is Beyond My Lens. Come with me while I reconnect with the incredible people I've photographed to share the stories behind the images you see. Because every powerful portrait starts with a powerful story. Beyond My Lens is brought to you by Narrative, the best culling and editing workflow for photographers, and my favorite way to edit. Okay, so today's guest is Heidi Chance, a law enforcement veteran with over 27 years experience and specializing in combating sex trafficking. You have also served as an undercover cop and now use that real-world expertise to be a nationally recognized subject matter expert and expert witness. You've also been featured on the PBS documentary Sex Trafficking in America, and you are also the author of Talk to Them, a guide that helps parents navigate conversations with their kids about digital safety, which is something I really, really want to touch on today.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you.
So we met because of a mutual friend, Seek Smith, and we did a photo shoot about your branding because I know, launching from being a cop to now your own brand, basically to help educate people, right?
Yes. Yes. That was such a fun time.
I loved it. I think it turned out beautiful, and you had this beautiful blue suit, and yeah, just captured your eyes and
Kept
everything.
on brand.
What did you say?
I kept on brand.
Oh, I love it. Well, yeah. So, I mean, in there, it's, not every day that I get to work with someone as incredible as you and that's doing such impactful work in the world.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, I don't know if you want to touch on just kind of give some background about yourself, because, I mean, to be in law enforcement for 27 years, where did that, originally draw you to that work? Did you always want to be a cop or?
Yeah, so in high school, I was part of junior ROTC, and I thought I was going to go in the Air Force for a little bit because you have to be 21 to be a cop. But yes, I definitely wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps. He was Phoenix PD. He did 26 years with Phoenix and then went on and did another 12 with Maricopa County Sheriff's Office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we just both of us don't stop. And then his dad actually was NYPD.
No way.
Yeah, so I'm third generation law enforcement.
So, your career, obviously, you didn't start in sex trafficking, right? So, how did like your career evolve to that?
Yeah, so I went in 1996 actually as a cadet, which was a new program that Phoenix Police Department had. And I actually started at 18 with the police department. Yeah. I
Wow. And so you're
really
saying you couldn't have been a cop until you're 21, so you were able to be there at 18?
Yeah, so instead of going to the Air Force like I thought, this opportunity came up, and my dad came home with this information and said, "Hey, they're doing a cadet program. They had it a few years ago. They brought it back. This time they're, opening it up to, I think we started with five originally. And so there was five of us that were all under 21. And basically we wore like a light blue shirt. We drove a fully marked police car and we had pepper spray, a baton, handcuffs, and a radio. And that's it.
Wow.
And I got assigned after our little academy to South Phoenix.
That's so crazy. That's
Yeah. So little blonde me was responding to accidents with like limited injuries, not like accidents with a fatality or anything. Obviously, directing traffic if there was an accident with a fatality, dusting for fingerprints, recovering stolen vehicles, which basically you dust for fingerprints and you wait for the tow truck. That's your job. And then obviously female searches of other potential arrestees. But that's what I did pretty much from 18 to 20 and a half. And then at 20 and a half, I went into the academy for realsies. And then after coming out, I didn't want to be, known. I didn't want to go to South Phoenix again because I wanted to be in a different area of town. And I didn't want everyone to think, okay, so she's the accident queen. I hate doing accidents. That's the
you
worst.
wanted like your own identity, basically.
Yes, so I went to Maryville Precinct, so West Phoenix, where I really grew up as a cop. I spent 10 years in Maryville Precinct. And so after doing patrol for 3 years, I decided to have a family. And so I had my son, And it's amazing to me. And this was back in 2000, almost 2001, before he was born. They didn't know what to do with a female cop that's pregnant.
That's why I was just also just such a male dominated field in general, right? Yeah.
So originally, in pregnancy, early on, they had me on third shift and then a couple of days day shift, all in the same week. So my sleep schedule was crazy because here I am having to stay up all night and then 2 days later, work days and then stay up all night again. So I had to get a doctor's note to make them not mess around with my sleep schedule anymore because they just plug you where they need you and they don't really consider your condition as anything. But more than that, I was actually on the streets in patrol 4 months pregnant. And I remember
As someone that was just pregnant, I'm like, this is so crazy.
4 months wearing the uniform, getting in and out of the car, responding to 911 calls, wearing the gun belt. And I had a call of a bomb threat at a house. And I literally was like, what the hell am I doing in this house? I need to get off the road right now because it's not just me anymore. So that's when I decided to go ahead and go behind the desk. And that's when they messed with my schedule. So I was already 4 months pregnant and they're messing with my sleep schedule. But ultimately, after I had my son, I knew I wanted to breastfeed, which is also another thing that the police department's not prepared for, a cop that wants to breastfeed. And, you can't do that when you're driving a fully marked police car, responding to calls, and where do you pull off to go pump? At the Circle K in the dirty bathroom?
Yeah.
So I tested for a position as a school resource officer and got that just before I came back from pregnancy leave and went into that position. And I blinked and 6 years went by. So this is my career in Maryville Precinct is patrol and then school resource officer. And when I was a school resource officer, I was around seventh and eighth graders over at the middle school right by Trevor Brown, um, also in Maryville. And basically, I love that job. It's just one day when we don't get to take the police car home and we have to go into the station and return the keys because that car actually gets driven 10 hours later for the third shift. So I turned in the keys, and in the precinct, there's an area where we keep juveniles separate from adults because of safety and we don't want them exposed to things or anything to happen to them. So this area, these two rooms, I happened to see through the window of the little door this girl that I recognized from when she was in seventh or eighth grade. She's still a juvenile on that day, but she was almost 17. And I looked at her, she recognized me. I popped my head in and I said, why are you in trouble? And I had no idea that she was under arrest for prostitution. And I literally knew prostitution was a crime. I had already been a cop for many years, but I just didn't think kids got involved in that. And then obviously back then we were arresting kids. Um, we were
And
arresting,
not really knowing that maybe they were, trafficked or,
we
you know what I
weren't
mean? Like into
even,
this. Yeah.
yeah, we were not even thinking that they were anything other than the person that needs to go to jail. So that really got me thinking about obviously children getting involved in this. And then uniquely, we also had during that time an incident. If you're local to Phoenix, I'm not sure if you are, but there was, I think this was in like 2007, 2006. There was an incident involving a girl that was kept in a dog crate. And it was a male and female 18 and 19-year-old that had basically kidnapped her from a park and held her in this apartment. And when I say kidnapped her, they didn't like drag her into the car or anything, but convinced her to go with them and then they wouldn't let her leave. And the mom kept calling the police because she had reported her as a runaway and she kept saying, I know my daughter's in there. And so law enforcement went 3 times before we found her. The first 2 times she must have been threatened to stay quiet because they had her held in like this waterbed type of elevated bed where she was locked underneath the mattress in this section of this bed. And then also kept in the dog crate. But obviously when the cops were there to look, she was hidden underneath the bed. And finally, on the third time, she must have made a noise, and the officers were like, hold up, what was that? And they kept looking and looking, and then they found her.
Well, and it's stuff that you would never like, to someone that's, I don't know, how do you describe it, but like you never, I would actually think that somebody would be in that situation.
Yeah.
I know for
No.
me personally, until I started or having friends that were involved in just combating sex trafficking, like, because you don't actually think some of the stuff is real. Like, I went to a candlelight vigil that Seek was holding, and you're like, I grew up, and it sounds so dumb, and I don't mean to say it in a way, but like I grew up watching, SVU, right? And that was kind of my only exposure to kind of knowing about this even world of, just violent sex crimes, right? But I went to this vigil and this woman was talking and she was saying how she got trafficked at 15. She was, middle child, normal family. You know what I'm saying? Nothing that would come across as like somebody that would be in this situation, right? Quote unquote. But her boyfriend's dad trafficked her, ended up getting it, and she said she was raped 3 times a day for 3 years straight. So it was like 6,000 times or something like that over the course of 3 years. And for me, I'm like, you think if this happens to somebody once, right? Like with tragedy, but the actual depths of how horrific these crimes are, that's what really opened my mind to like just how much you have to start fighting this and that people can't actually comprehend what people are going through and they think it's not real, they think it's not going on. But when you actually talk to a victim, my heart changed completely when I had that conversation with her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I was pregnant at the time too with my daughter, and I remember she prayed over my stomach and saying like, keep your daughter safe. And I know that I mean, we're going to talk about more about your book, but it's like, what can parents do to even kind of, because what she had talked to me about, she's like, there was nothing that my parents like were looking out for, right? But,
Mhm.
she was 15, she got involved with the wrong boy and it kind of took over and she didn't see her family for 5 years after that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that parents can do, and that's kind of why I was inspired to write the book because law enforcement's overwhelmed. We are running around like chickens with their head cut off, trying to respond to everybody calling 911 for other crimes. And also, a lot of law enforcement's not trained. Back in 1998, when I was in the police academy, I didn't have a class on human trafficking. We didn't even start training our own officers in Phoenix area until 2014. And
And
as
Phoenix is a hot spot, right?
well, Phoenix, yeah, and it's also the fifth largest city in the United States.
Yeah.
We don't have a massive, amazing downtown or anything, but it's still growing. And by population, we have that category in the ranking.
Yeah.
So basically, and traveling around, I'm finding also when I ask law enforcement, have you had a class on human trafficking? And no one's raising their hand. So even other states still haven't even done the basic training in the academy on what to look for. So you have a whole bunch of cops that don't realize, and these pimps are bragging about us not seeing them. They really are. I actually caught a Facebook Live of a pimp on his Facebook. Look at me. And there's 5 patrol cars in the background dealing with whatever emergency. And he's bragging about not being seen. And he's not half wrong because we have not trained our cops to see. So that's part of, the other problem. But with parents, training parents and educating them is a mission of mine because of that, and because the fact that unfortunately this problem's growing. It's not getting any better with all of the eyes on it and all of the outreach and everything we're doing. Unfortunately, it's getting worse. And I know this because when I first started, 2007, the national average age of entry into sex trafficking was 15 years old. And today it's 13. And recently, I have participated in operations because I'm still in law enforcement, where we've rescued 11 and 12-year-olds out there. So we're doing what we can and the best we can, but we need more people to step up. And that, I think, starts with prevention at home. Prevention, where parents are having conversations with their kids about this new white van, the phone. This is the new white van. And, the stranger danger, I don't know where it went or why it went away or people's concept in that, but really we should be worried about the strangers on the devices that we let our kids have access to, like the phone, the games, the apps, the social media, all of those things, because that's where they're getting exposed to this situation first. And part of that is because you've got traffickers who sit on their butt. And I know this because I've participated in undercover operations, catfishing pimps is what I call it, where during the week-long time that I'm talking to this trafficker and they think I'm someone else, but I'm talking to them, I've done a warrant for our conversation because I'm preserving my evidence. But I'm also finding that the message that was sent to me was copied and pasted, literally copied and pasted to hundreds of other profiles daily, all over the United States, not just local. And I've extradited pimps all the way from Orlando, Florida to Arizona to see a judge for a felony, and they've never seen my face. So we're there, we're trying to be there so then that way they recruit and groom us instead of a live person. But it also sends a loud and clear message that this is where this is happening, just based off of what we know in the little time that we've been even doing the catfishing pimps operations. It's only been a couple of years. The concern for me is that perception's everything. And these kids think that because YouTube said so, I can make money if I have X number of followers or connections or subscribers to my social media. And that is literally an open door into your house, into your child's bedroom, and you don't know who they're talking to. So super, super scary. And I really think that parents need to make it the job of a parent to research this game that your kid just approached you about that wants to download, or
Like a
research
Roblox or something, or yeah, okay, okay.
exactly that. But also research these apps that the school is suggesting, school just started, that you download to communicate with the classmates and the teacher. Research these social media platforms like friendly.com. I mean, that's like a total meeting strangers app, but they're making it like friends. It's not people they know in real life, and it is extremely dangerous for them to be talking to these strangers and having these strangers having access to them.
Well, and because I mean, I didn't even think about all this. I was even just thinking about like as general as posting pictures of your child on the
Oh
internet. Because
yeah.
I mean, I do it. I definitely post pictures of my baby because I'm like, oh my God, look how cute my baby is, right? But it's like it's kind of scary because I actually heard about somebody that said they had a private profile that somebody ended up making like a doll of their child that was like a of their 7 year old, and I didn't even that didn't even cross my mind. So as a parent, right, I'm trying to get more conscious of things like that.
Mhm. Yeah, so absolutely it's scary, and even with what's going on with AI and people, you know, creating AI generated relationships with these AI generated individuals. I mean, there's a couple of them now, AI generated OnlyFans girls. you know so it is a time where unfortunately we need to not be posting what we ate for breakfast and telling everybody every minute of our day, and sharing so much that we share.
Well, okay. So going back though, because let's going back to that one incident where the girl was in underneath the bed. So how then? Where do we go from there to now here in your journey?
Yeah, so after that case, uniquely, I was asked to be a prostitute on the side of the road, for like a temporary shadow of a night here, a night there. And I started doing that, still working as a school resource officer, but doing these shadows. And I was just amazed. Like the first time I ever stepped foot out of the hotel, we were at 51st Avenue, McDowell, and I stepped to the curb. And within 45 seconds, the guy pulled up on me and rolled his window down, called me over to his car, and asked me how much. So it is, and then even in talking to him, I noticed, because you see, I'm very observant as a cop, other like bees swarming, like other buyers, sex buyers, waiting. If I don't get in the car with that guy, they're gonna pull up on me. So this entire like, and back then we could arrest 16, 20 a night with
Wow.
like 4 female undercovers just rotating through. And that was when it was a little bit easier and we didn't have the booking process we have now. We could just issue citations, but we do book them now, which is also good because I tell you, this demand, this sex buyer, people buying people demand is what's generating this entire crime.
That's so. I mean, it's awful. It's actually so scary. And
Yeah.
just even thinking that these are people's, like it's your husband. It could be, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
People have no idea that what's going on
Oh,
with all this.
thousands over the years, because I've been doing this 16 years now. Thousands of men I've watched take their wedding ring off, put it in the cup holder, and then turn to me to solicit me.
Absolutely horrific.
Hmm.
So, I mean, what have you, I mean, it's like, it's so hard to want to even like interview on a subject like this because I just want to help people be aware because like I said, my ignorance about it was so real and it still is. Like I said,
Yeah.
I just have no, I mean, the depths of what's going on. And so with children though, right? Is there
Yes.
any warning signs that parents can look for? Like, is that instance when I was talking to you about the girl that I met that, you know, because again, it's a completely, she had normal upbringing. She just said she was the middle child. Maybe she got, you know, the younger child had ADHD. The older one was really successful, and she kind of just got lost in the mix, and parents weren't paying attention as much. So, is there anything that you can help parents be aware of?
Yeah, that I have a whole list of indicators. I call it my sex trafficking indicators list, but there are behaviors that you can recognize going on with someone, even if it isn't a child, even if it's an adult. If they disappear off of social media, if they disappear from family and friends, that's a clue that something's going on with them. That's not normal because normally you see them posting and things. And, you know, maybe that's even a mental health problem that we need to look at too with that person. It could be a whole other thing. But there's other indicators. For instance, if it's a kid that's missing school, like all of a sudden they start ditching or truancy, if they're dressing more provocatively than they did before, all of a sudden they show up at home with a phone that they found or that someone just gave them. That phone should no longer exist in your house. I pay for your phone. I have parental controls on your phone. I control the phone. We're not going to have a random phone in my house. Gifts. I mean, we've all been around long enough to know that no one gives you anything for free without expecting something in return. And so when someone all of a sudden starts giving this person gifts, I mean, it's not to be judgy, but if their family, it doesn't seem like they can afford a Coach purse and it's this kid shows up with a Coach purse, we should be asking questions about this gift all of a sudden that came and what did you have to do to get the gift? Bragging about having money. I mean, you know, this kid doesn't have a job. They show up with a bunch of cash. That's something we should ask questions about. Hotel keys. Anytime you find anybody with hotel keys that, you know, especially a juvenile, they're not going to rent a hotel room to a juvenile. Um, there is definitely a expectation where parents need to not only educate themselves on all of this stuff, but also have expectations at home. And there is no expectation of privacy in my house. If I want to, I'll take the door off the hinges. I will go through your backpack. I will go through your drawers. And you need to test it every now and again so they know mom's going to find out. You know what I mean? You have to kind of put your thumb on them and let them experience that, oh shit, my mom is going to check type of thing. That way they live with this tiny bit of fear, not fear of parents, but fear of,
Like not in an
I,
overbearing way, but in a way that you're
ah,
like, hey, I'm checking in, and
yes,
well, and
I could get in trouble for this. Yeah.
well, and as a new parent, right? Like, where, I mean, I know I struggle with the idea of just, you know, because having a daughter, right? I
Mhm.
don't know, you know, where does it come in for me not trying to, you know, control her or whatever it is, right? But like also coming from a place to being like, you know, I really want to protect you. And how do we make kids understand that, you know, mom isn't being overbearing, mom is literally protecting you, and having these more conversations that seem more open? Because, like I said, I mean, my daughter's 6 months.
Yeah, you have a long way to go.
A long way to go, right? But I know that she's my number one priority over anything in this world.
Mhm.
So, like I said, but and I want to have a relationship where she's feeling, yeah, nurtured, cared for, inspired, and allowed to explore all these things. But you know, I couldn't imagine her having, you know, Snapchat at 8 years old, right, or whatever it is. But she might fight back about it. She heard one of her friends have it. Like I know even another friend of mine who was said his daughter and him are having really hard kind of butting head moments because she wanted to wear, you know, a see-through shirt with just her bra into school.
Oh no.
And he's like, hell no, you know, this is not
Yeah.
happening. So it's like, how do parents kind of navigate these conversations that when it's met with this combativeness from the kids?
Yeah. So I think what you said as far as they're going to get access to it anyways. I,
Yeah.
I think realizing that you could put so many rules going on at your house and all these things we've been talking about, searching their room and all the stuff, but they still go to school, what, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and we can't be there too. So I think what it is those conversations as to why I am making these rules, as to why these things are happening. Those open conversations, because of this and this and this will happen and has happened to other kids, and I don't want that to happen to you. That definitely, I call it self-policing. So you build this, and this is in the book, you build this situation where you have these constant conversations and arm them with the information that this is what a creeper looks like. This is when someone's sliding into your private messages and saying, hey, let's keep this a secret from mom. Tell them that that's going to happen. Tell them that, someone might ask you to trip to a Snapchat because they think things will disappear, or give you your personal phone, or ask personal questions about you, delete messages, speak in code. Tell them so that when it starts happening, because it's gonna, and you might not be around, they can recognize, wait a minute, my mom told me all about this. This is actually a creeper. And then they will discontinue speaking to that person, and they will come tell you about it. And
So
all,
creating that really safe space
yes, yes.
and
They have
education.
to know. They have to know they have to know why, I think.
Well, and then so, and I don't know why this just came to my head, right? Because it's like, I want to protect my daughter, right? But for women with sons, I mean, you're a mom of a son, right? Like, because I
Uh-huh.
know the porn industry is so impactful. Like, even like me and my husband talked about it, like, from when, even before phones were in your hand, right? I
Yeah.
mean, men had been exposed to so much stuff, even women too, or like, even I think about AOL chat rooms back in the day, right? You would go
Yeah.
in a chat room and it was, I mean, this was at the bare like start of the internet, right? And some
Mhm.
weird dude would send you like some weird picture, and then you were all of a sudden like 8 years old and exposed, or 12 years old and exposed to this. But like for men, how do we protect our sons? Like, right, like I know one of my cousins, she says, your phone's never in the bathroom with you, your phone's never with you in your room alone, like, or whatever. How do we start like protecting our
Yeah.
sons from situations where they're now becoming addicted to like things like porn that also turns into kind of violence things that may have them interested in things like prostitution, or it kind of elevates them? So how do we protect our sons?
Yeah, my son's gonna hate me for telling you this, but I caught him looking at Asian cartoon type pornography at
Yeah.
11 years old on the phone that I gave him. And I caught him because, again, I checked. And it's one of those things where I always had the password, always had access to any of the apps, those kind of things. In fact, I think he's still on my Apple ID. It's just mirrored to his phone, so I know what apps he downloads. But anyway, I think also the same thing is describing that your friends might talk about sex, when you're ready to have that conversation, and that some of the things that you might view on social media or on these games or in movies, those aren't real relationships. And really focus in on what a real relationship is and what that entails, and why that's important, especially for the family. I think that having those conversations really will help.
How's things changed though? Does it, I mean, it must have been interesting to start in 2001 and then now see
Oh yeah.
the change from 25 years.
Yeah, I've actually witnessed a lot of change. So originally, after I had done the school resource officer and the temporary assignments, I ultimately tested and got a position in January of 2001 with the unit. I'm sorry, not January 2001, January 2009. Back in 2009, even, we were still arresting prostitutes every day. And in fact, this unit that I tested for, it was called VICE. Now it's called the Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit. They only allowed one female detective on each squad because they used the male detectives with the goal of arresting prostitutes all day long, every day. Now I'm happy to say that those squads outweigh female undercovers to male, because you need female undercovers to pursue traffickers and sex buyers, period. I mean, the proactive operations that they're doing and that I was a part of. I mean, I'm talking thousands of sex buyers I've arrested over the years, and same with pimps. So you have to have female undercovers to do that. And, we've also started asking the question that we were never asking before when we would have contact with a prostitute, which is, what can we do to get you out of this? What can we do to actually help you? And then further of that, have actual help. So we have a victim advocate, and it was a first of its kind, I think. I mean, I know this because I travel around the United States speaking. We had a victim advocate assigned to our squad. Like, literally, she would be out with us at 2 in the morning when we do operations, and she would be able to offer services right then. She'd have funding to buy a flight or a bus ticket home, or the backline shelter phone number. And we were actually helping and getting people out of the life instead of meeting them again the next night.
So you're saying, and like, yeah, basically a big shift of, instead of like arresting the prostitutes being the main concern, you're arresting the men participating.
Yeah,
And
that's the
then,
shift. But we have relationships to repair, because we have victims that are not coming forward and saying, hey, Detective Chance, I'm over here, come talk to me. They still are in love with their pimp. They're still loyal to their pimp. And it's a situation where the pimp's probably already told them, you're committing a crime. The cops aren't going to help you. They're just going to arrest you. And they're not half wrong because that's what we were doing before. So it's a slow process to get the word out that we're trying not to make arrests. I mean, ultimately, if I offer you services 10 times and you turn us down and then you go right back out to prostituting, we have to draw a line in the sand. And there are people who live in these neighborhoods where all the street prostitution is happening. There's businesses and churches and schools,
And
and
there,
people don't want to have a prostitute and a buyer having sex in a car outside their kid's bedroom window or throwing used condoms in their front yard. So it's a balance of we do have to take enforcement action, but at least we're doing better with trying to actually help people get out of the life.
well, and I mean, all this sounds so heavy though. Like, how do you like balance though, being a mom and like and all this stuff and not bringing all this home with you too? Like, how does it affect you in your day-to-day life?
Well, I have always joked that I'm bipolar.
Live one life and have the other? Yeah.
Now, I try to compartmentalize, a lot of what I mean, I put my game face on and I got a pretty good game face. I do have an issue I struggle with now that things have kind of calmed down and I'm not out of it. I'm sorry, I'm out of it, not in it as much, but I'm still in law enforcement, but not physically doing the undercover work as much. And, it's almost like I'm having a hard time dealing with everything now because things have slowed down. And I think part of my therapy is being so busy with what I've got going on with my business and my mission, to occupy that space. Because if I let that go and I just have space, I probably would not be able to um, talk about all this.
Well, and then that's me and my husband were actually talking about it. He's like, because I mean, Dylan thinks the world of you. He just thinks you're like the coolest person ever after that event. He's like,
Boy,
Heidi's such a badass.
not like
And
that.
but he's like, how is she even going to be on your podcast in the video when she still does undercover work too? So like, how are you balancing? I mean, is your safety at risk when you're like, hey, I used to be undercover, and maybe I'm sure people have issues with you, right? In
Oh
terms of
yeah.
you've arrested them, and then now you're also creating your personal brand. So what's your balance with that?
Yeah, so in 2019, the movie documentary Sex Trafficking in America came out, and that's the one that we were featured in. So at that point, I already knew my face is
Out
pretty
there, yeah.
out there. I do what I can to change up what I look like. I wear wigs and change up what I look like. And I think I do an okay job. I don't get recognized that much, but my one fangirl moment, I just had the second one the other day, but the first fangirl moment was an actual prostitute that I was vested up and not wearing anything but normal. And I pulled her out of the car and she was looking at me weird. And I said, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "You were in that movie." So, that's like the only time that I've been recognized up until just last week when I was at a conference and it was another officer who shows that documentary to his students.
Okay.
He's teaching law enforcement in the high school. But yeah, it's one of those where I definitely have a lot of enemies. Um, I've had traffickers do a public records request for my personnel file from prison. I have my head on a swivel for sure, and that's always in the back of my mind because those threats are definitely real, just as real as they are for victims. I've had traffickers try and intimidate me by doing those things, and um, I just can't live every day in fear. Um, so I'm just doing the best I can to be vigilant and situationally aware, and I protect my information. I subscribe to Delete Me, if you've ever heard of them.
Mm-mm.
So I pay for Delete Me every month because you can go through and try and remove your address and everything off the internet, but then the next month your stuff gets sold again. And so I pay for the service for them to pull my information off the internet. And so far it's been pretty good.
Well,
So
that's super useful to know about. I had no idea
yeah,
about that.
yeah, I have a discount code.
Oh, we'll put it in the bio.
Okay, yeah, it's just my a chance for awareness promo code. So.
Well, and then so what's next for you though? Because I think it's amazing because I know and then I mean, it would also be really interesting to talk about though, like being expert witness. So
Mhm.
how are you using that? So are you usually like just going on to cases and then you're studying them and then being an expert witness on them? And then what's the
Actually,
process with that?
yeah, actually, they want you to be a blind witness. So they'll have an expert come in and speak to the entire lifestyle and dynamics of the prostitution world. And then obviously and I won't know anything about the case.
Oh,
So
wow.
that way the jury sees that, okay, everything this expert said, who doesn't know anything about what happened to this victim, and then the victim testifies about all those things that just this witness just said were going on. This is the lifestyle and this is a victim. So that's where I come in and be a blind witness um, to speak on the lifestyle.
I had no idea that was even a thing.
Yeah.
So cool. And well, so are you enjoying the like, and then where does the passion come from now? And then like, how can actually people just go from being aware? Because again, I know so many people that are like, this is not as bad as people make it out to be, or they're, I don't know, they just kind of hype it up to, I think it's so, when you actually know the details of stuff, you can't look past it. So now when people choose to ignore it, they can just bury it in a place that's, makes them ignorant to all this. But I mean, can people that want to get involved help this?
Yeah. So I think educating yourself on what it is huge. So that way you can recognize it happening to someone you know, or even just someone out on the street. Like if you're at Starbucks and you are getting your coffee and you see a lady on the laptop and it looks like she has this weird website with nude pictures of other females, and she's on the phone and it sounds like she's arranging a date for later, and what do you do with that information? So the Arizona has its own hotline, and it is managed by ASU and a law enforcement entity. And the reason why we have our own hotline is because the National Human Trafficking Hotline is actually in DC. And that's
Okay.
a minute, which could be 3 or 4 days before you report something there and it actually trickles down to the right place. Also, the National Human Trafficking Hotline was made for survivors and survivors who not necessarily want to involve law enforcement. So if a child calls the national hotline, they're not mandatory reporters. So the thing about that is if it's a kid, we really need to investigate because there's probably other kids. I mean, we need to investigate all of these, but I understand having a resource where people who think that the cops are just going to arrest you, they've got a private entity that manages the national hotline that they could call, and the cops will never know. And they can just get out and get the resources and move on. We feel in Arizona, obviously, that we want to investigate as many of these as we can, because just because this victim's getting rescued and getting out doesn't mean there's not more victims that are being exploited right now. So we have that. And then as far as, recognizing all of this, I do have my resource on my website, a chanceforawareness.com, that sex trafficking indicators list. And then I do have a course where I recorded myself. I call it the power of awareness. And in that I talk about how a victim's, exploited. It's pretty much the vulnerabilities. And just like you had said, that girl, middle child, came from a nice house, no, like probably no child neglect or child sexual assault or anything going
Exactly.
on. And she still had it happen to her. I talk and explain it's about the vulnerabilities that traffickers are skilled at finding in a person, and it's of any age. And then I also talk about traffickers and their dynamics, because I've recognized that I've arrested traffickers where their family, number one, knows what's going on. They also might be financially benefiting. I've arrested several pimps' mothers for destroying evidence, intimidating witnesses, interfering with my investigation, as well as it seems like every pimp that I've ever arrested, it's a generational behavior they grew up with because someone in their family was a pimp also.
Okay.
It's a learned behavior. This is just my own experience. Um, and it's one of those things where there's certain characteristics of traffickers, gang members doing trafficking now. And then obviously the most concerning thing, and why victims don't even come forward as much also, is because just because we put them in jail or prison doesn't mean anything stops, because they have mail, phones, video visits, and now tablets where they promise me that can't get on the internet. But if a 12-year-old can figure out how to bypass parental controls, a hardened criminal in prison can figure out how to get on the internet on a device that we're providing for them. Yeah, so it's one of those where, of course, victims are even more scared because they can find them. They can look for them on social media. They can look for them on YouTube, look for them out on people's stories. And unfortunately, a lot of victims, just because they're pimps in custody, doesn't mean they can just stop everything and go work at Taco Bell for minimum wage. Um, they need income. They probably have children they have to take care of and a lifestyle that they're used to and bills and things to pay for. So sometimes it takes a while for them to get out of the life. Um,
Is there
and
any resources though in Phoenix? Because I know there, I can't remember the name. It might be even private. That helps house people that have gotten out.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So we have the Dream Center.
that's exactly it. Okay.
Uh-huh. And then we also have several others. We have the New Life or New Hope. We have Catholic Social Services, Jewish Family Services. We've got a lot of resources for adults. We also have resources for juveniles that get rescued, and it's placement for them, which is really good because we didn't have that before. And before it was hello, child safety. I've got a kid. I got to go bust down the doors and get the bad guy. Here you go. And then they would go to a random group home with an available bed and they'd go, do I have to stay here? No. Cool. Hey girl, do you want to run away with me? I'm going to introduce you to my daddy. And then we were like, a revolving door of kids running away from group homes that we don't do anymore. We have a protocol and now we have them, in a placement that's actually curtailed to this specific type of victim where they can get specific services right away. But we don't have any placement for boys, as far as I'm aware. We don't have any placement for kids in transition. So we are not completely perfect yet. And then, these places are filling up and there's victims that, like, how long do you place them before you say, hey, I need you to leave because I got to have this bed for someone else. So there's always a need for placements and resources like that.
And you think donating to these or volunteering your time or anything that we can do to help these
Yeah.
organizations?
Yeah, so as far as getting involved, we have, of course, Dream Center is constantly looking for donations because they're trying to expand into other locations. And so they have to remodel. And it's ironic that they're in a hotel because that's where most of the victims were victimized, in a hotel. But they try to make the hotel rooms look like a little apartment and they renovate it real cute and decorate it, and all that costs money. And then also, obviously, um, the fact that when detectives are out and we are rescuing a victim, I have sat across the table from a victim and they're worried about their property back at the hotel room. And even though it's maybe makeup and toiletries and a pair of shoes and a purse, that's all the property that their traffickers let them have and own personally. And so if I can offer them a backpack full of, makeup remover wipes, hairbrush, toothpaste, toothbrush, like the essentials, and then like they're also wearing like a dress this big, if I can give them a hoodie and leggings and flip-flops and socks and, something to cuddle with or whatever, if I can provide them their own stuff, they're less likely to be worried about that crap back at the hotel room, and they can sever that connection with their trafficker, and then that's all theirs.
That's a really, amazing idea. Because I mean, so many times, even if I have an extra backpack, I'm like, oh, I'll just give it to Goodwill. But
Yeah,
to take that backpack and fill it up with some, yeah, like leggings and everything like that, and
yeah.
give somebody a
So
kit to, feel like they can restart even a little bit is a really beautiful idea.
yeah, the Danielle Project, if you follow her on Instagram, she's actually an owner of several salons in Scottsdale, and she's got her own nonprofit and she's doing amazing work. And she has done drives for these. And then I've met with her and we've given them to the Southwest Family Advocacy Center. And then I think she's doing one for Scottsdale area. And then, we're trying to hit all the areas, but there are other organizations out there. There's Arizona Anti-Trafficking Network. But even outside of Arizona, there are organizations almost in every state for anti-human trafficking and victim services and those kind of things.
Wow, I'm gonna put all this info in the bio just so people are aware because
Yeah.
again, this is such a sensitive episode that I just want to be really careful with the resources that you provide to people. Because, I don't know. I just know that every time you record something, is my hope is that you're touching somebody's lives that could be helped. So I'm really appreciative of your time and all the resources you've shared. So a chance for awareness.com is where most people can find your information.
Yeah, so I have my website, and that's where I have my courses. I got the Power of Awareness, and then I also have a modern day situational awareness course that I just did, and also a digital literacy for parents course. And then I have my resources there, and then obviously Talk to Them is on Amazon. I had a copy of it last podcast, and I don't know what I did with it, but I also just had it translated into Spanish. And I'm having an audio version of that come out as well, because I feel like it's a vulnerability that if a boyfriend comes into the situation and the parents don't speak English and there's a language barrier there and they don't know what's going on, then all of a sudden this girl doesn't come back home and report her as a runaway, they're not going to know what's going on. And so I think that having it translated in Spanish is huge, and as well as social media and the apps and the things that English speaking students are getting exposed to, so are non-English speaking students. So
Wow. No, I think that's crucial.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because so much of Latin America is also having this issue, like being, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also, yeah, we can go totally into that as well. But anyways, I'm so thankful for your time, and I'm gonna get a copy of the book myself. I can't wait to educate myself on, everything that you have to share. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to Beyond My Lens. I'm Katie Levine, and this podcast was created out of passion for sharing these stories. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and join me next time as we go beyond the lens.